What happened to REO Speedwagon? REO Speedwagon was formed on the campus of the University of Illinois by drummer Alan Gratzer and keyboard player Neil Dowdy in 1968, who for the most part would remain the core of the band throughout years of lineup changes. Rounded out by bassist Greg Philbin, guitarist Gary Richrath, and vocalist Terry Luttrell, the band had become a fixture at local venues when they were noticed by agent Irving Azoff. After Azoff was able to slate the group as the opening act on several Midwestern tour bills, most notably with Bob Seger, REO had gained enough stature to cut their self-titled debut album for Epic. Although the record captured the rollicking fun of live bar music, REO Speedwagon produced no hits and flew underneath the radar of most critics. Until the late 70s, there was little that distinguished each REO album from the next, aside from an occasional replacement of a member. The most important of these was Kevin Cronin, who took over as lead vocalist with REO/TWO, the group's sophomore effort released in 1972. Cronin departed after that album but returned in 1975 to relieve substitute Michael Murphy. Although Cronin's style of singing is not recognized for its innovations, his knack for writing ballads later became an integral part of the band's commercial Day in the Sun. Still, although they borrowed their name from a fast-paced fire truck, REO Speedwagon was slow in reaching the charts. Oddly enough, for a group that had not yet warmed the public over with studio favorites, REO at last long achieved their first gold album with the two-record live effort, You Get What You Play For, released in 1977. With Cronin and Richrath taking over at the production helm, the group capitalized on Play For's momentum with the whimsically titled studio album, You Can Tune a Piano But You Can't Tune a Fish, in 1978. The record was REO's first to produce a million-selling single, Roll With the Changes, and tempered the group's hard rock leanings with catchier pop-oriented hooks. With the subsequent release of 9 Lives in 1979, it grew clear that this fusion was the group's new direction. While REO's transformation into easy-to-take pop-rock ballads began to rack points with audiences, it was clear that critics saw the band's newfound success to be indicative of the embrace of bland, unimaginative music. As the 1980 release High Infidelity made itself comfortable in the #1 album slot for almost 5 months, selling over 6.5 million copies, music journalists gave REO kudos grudgingly. In addition to the hooky nature of High Infidelity songs, the inclusion of ballads was also decisive in the band's turn toward success, as the slow tempo Keep On Loving You and Take It On the Run were the biggest of the album's 4 chart hits. REO themselves attributed the change in popularity simply to hard work and maturity. Whether High Infidelity's runaway popularity was a question of the public's mood or time-tested craftsmanship, REO began to slip from its commercial crest almost upon its arrival. REO's 1982 follow-up album, Good Trouble, like High Infidelity, worked to strengthen the once generic band's identity as songwriters and producers, but wallowed in hackneyed, forgettable lyrics. Although both the album and its single Keep the Fire Burning broke the top 10 charts, such critical prophecies would soon come to pass. Before hitting their terminal sales slump, the group had one more giant hit with Can't Fight This Feeling, a single from REO's 1985 Wheels Are Turning album. Once again, it was a melodramatic ballad that hit the group, this time about a platonic friendship that gets sparked into romance. As the subject matter may suggest, Cronin's lyrics had not become any more imaginative, and the group's record continued to be critically panned. However, after being panned for over a decade, REO had learned to take reviewers' potshots in stride. Unfortunately for Cronin, his fears of being shunned completely were just around the corner. With Life as We Know It, a studio album released in 1987, REO enlisted outside songwriters like Tom Kelly and Billy Steinberg to take a stab at a more adult-oriented kind of pop, but impressed neither listeners or critics in the process. After this album, REO's efforts rarely were given even a passing nod from major music journals. By the early 1990s, REO had seen the retirement of core members Scratzer and Richrath and were largely resigned to releasing compilations of earlier material, such as The Second Decade of Rock and Roll, released in 1991. However, with new guitarist Dave Amato and drummer Brian Hitt in tow, REO was able to remain intact. Finally coming to a full circle, the band's career again consisted of regular touring on smaller stages and state fairs throughout the Midwest, where diehard fans still filled out sizable audiences. Shortly after his departure, Richrath assembled former members of the Midwestern band Vancouver to form a namesake band, Richrath. Having lost the recording contract with Epic, REO Speedwagon ended up releasing Building the Bridge in 1996 on the Priority/Rhythm Safari label. When that label went bankrupt, the album was released on Castle Records, which also experienced financial troubles. Since 1995, the label has released over a dozen compilation albums featuring greatest hits, including 1999's The Ballads, which features 2 new songs, Just For You, written by Cronin and Jim Peterick, and Till the Rivers Run Dry, also written by Cronin. In 2000, REO teamed up with Styx for an appearance at Riverport Amphitheater in St. Louis, which was released as a live concert video, Arch Allies Live at Riverport. REO once again teamed with Styx in 2003 for the Classic Rock's main event tour, which also included another band from their common rock era, Journey. The band released a self-financed album entitled Find Your Own Way Home in April of 2007. Though it did not chart as an album, it produced 2 singles, I Needed to Fall and Find Your Own Way Home, both written by Cronin, which appeared on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Radio chart. They teamed up with Styx to record a new single entitled Can't Stop Rocking, released in March 2009, as well as for a full tour that included special guest 38 Special. In November 2009, REO Speedwagon released a Christmas album, Not So Silent Night, Christmas with REO Speedwagon. On December 2nd, the band released an online video game, Find Your Own Way Home, produced by digital design agency Curious Sense. In mid-2010, the band, then touring with Pat Benatar, announced that it would release a 30th anniversary deluxe edition reissue of High Infidelity. On November 22, 2013, they announced a benefit concert with Styx titled Rock to the Rescue to raise money for the families affected by the tornadoes in central Illinois. Richard Marx joined REO on stage for a joint performance of 2 of his hit songs. Gary Richrath reunited with REO one final time that night for a performance of Riding the Storm Out to end REO's set at that sold-out concert. In early 2014, it was announced that REO Speedwagon in Chicago would be teaming up for 15 dates throughout 2014. Unfortunately, Gary Richrath died on September 13, 2015 due to complications from surgery. In 2016, the band went on tour with Def Leppard and Tesla. The band performed with Pitbull the song Messing Around live on the ABC TV show Greatest Hits in 2016, and that version of the song was also released as a single on iTunes. The band toured the UK arena circuit with Status Quo in December 2016. The band toured the US with Styx and Don Felder on the United We Rock tour, debuting June 20th, 2017 at the Sunlight Supply Amphitheater. The band appeared in an episode in the 3rd season of the American TV series Ozark, which was released on Netflix on March 27, 2020. In 2021, REO Speedwagon was inducted into the Hall of Fame at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, located in Joliet, Illinois. The group spent the summer of 2022 touring with Styx on the Live and Unzoomed tour, with Loverboy serving as the opening act. Unfortunately, Greg Philbin died on October 24th, 2022. On January 4th, 2023, the band announced that its sole remaining original member, Neil Doughty, would retire from touring with the band after 55 years. The band announced that Derek Hillen, who used to play with Iron Butterfly, he was a touring replacement for Doughty. As I'm recording this in early 2025, it seems like REO Speedwagon is essentially breaking up because of Kevin Cronin. And as I've talked about in this video, and after looking into the band's history and then just going on fan pages and hearing what the fans were going to say, it's clear that Kevin has been calling the shots for a long time. When he came back to the band in the 70s, he shifted their sound toward softer rock and top 40 hits, and this caused some key members to leave like Greg Philbin, Alan Gratzer, and especially Gary Richrath, who clashed with Kevin over the band's direction. And like I said before, Neil Doughty retired, and Bruce Hall, who's been with the band since the 70s, needed back surgery, but instead of welcoming Bruce back, I've heard Kevin didn't want him to return. Some fans say it's because Bruce looks too old on stage, which seems ridiculous to me. Plenty of older bands like Kansas still perform without trying to run around on stage. It sounds like Kevin wants complete control and isn't willing to compromise. Bruce even said they couldn't just replace Kevin because the lead singer is so central to the band's brand. The root issue of the band seems to be Kevin's push to make REO more of a pop band, which alienated fans who love their harder rock sound from the early days. Sure, their hits like Can't Fight This Feeling made them millions, but it's a far cry from what they sounded like in the 70s. Without Gary and Alan, they lost a lot of their edge, and it feels like Kevin turned the band into his project. Now it seems like it's all falling apart. Kevin Cronin and his band, which is basically the current REO lineup minus Bruce Hall, they're going on tour with Styx and Don Felder in the summer, and we'll just see what happens, and we're just going to have to roll with the changes. And that's what happened to REO Speedwagon. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Give me some facts about the band that I failed to mention in this video, and let me know who I should do next on the channel. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.